Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we're going to discuss a few ways to make your garden areas a bit more inviting during the holiday season. Let's get going. Well, here at the Garden Hutch, we believe that gardens are a great way to socialize with friends and family. Before we get too far into this video, though, I would just like to ask you, if you're enjoying this content, do me a solid, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can hit the little bell icon. YouTube will let you know when we upload new content. You can also hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot. It gets us recommended to new folks and such. So with that out of the way, let's talk about your gardens in the holidays. Well, here on the homestead, we often see family members that we don't see any other time except for the holidays. We all have super busy lives, that sort of thing. And so it's a really good time to catch up with friends and family. And we believe that using our gardens to do so is a great way to do that. The reason is that here on the homestead, a lot of what we do revolves around our garden. So oftentimes whenever my wife is communicating with people via social media and that sort of thing, gardens are a big topic. She shares pictures and, stories of the chickens, that sort of thing. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to try to make the garden space inviting whenever the holiday season comes around. And now with it being in the winter time and depending on where you're at, it can be more or less challenging. For us, Thanksgiving especially is usually somewhat pleasant, as long as there's not like inclement weather or anything. So, usually even on a cold Thanksgiving, it'll be in the mid 50s. And whenever you factor in the fact that the house is full of people that are all milling around and talking, and the oven is going, and everything that could possibly be warm in the house from cooking is hot, it's a good thing to get outside sometimes. So that's what we kind of like to do. We like to sort of use that as a way to sort of direct traffic out of the house a little bit, to give everybody a chance to cool off and kind of stay out from under the feet while I'm cooking. So my first tip for kind of getting people into your garden during the holidays is to make sure that the path from wherever it is you're congregating, whether it be a pavilion or your home, garage, whatever, that there's a clear and unobstructed pathway between that area and the garden that you're wanting people to go to. So if you're like us, we've got like 3 or 4 garden spaces, and it's just not practical for us to have all of them ready to go. Some of them are really far away from the house, and we don't want to spend that much time away from everybody else. So you want to make sure it's all inclusive, and the first step in doing that is to make sure that the pathway from wherever you're congregating to that garden is free of any sort of debris, obstructions, and also that it's obvious, that it's the obvious pathway. A lot of times people don't want to walk across your grass, that sort of thing, unless they're absolutely sure it's okay to do so. The second tip that we have for getting folks into your garden is to make sure that you've removed all of your overgrown spring or summer plants that have died off. You'll notice here that I've taken out both of the large tomato beds that I had left up here. I do like to get these out before Thanksgiving because we do have a lot of family members over, and the gardens are a place that we just sort of all naturally migrate to in our conversations and such. And so for people who are unfamiliar with your garden areas, something like this where the turnip greens are kind of growing over the bed, and it looks nice, and we're glad that we have our turnip greens that healthy. But for people who are uninitiated to gardening, a lot of times it can be intimidating. Perhaps they think that they're going to ruin your crop or something along those lines. And so what we like to do is we keep everything trimmed down, and that's why we leave these larger rows, at least one, so that whenever things are growing big, and let's say, for example, if we were to have carrots over there instead of having it empty, and the carrots were bigger, it could be a little intimidating for people. They not wanting to walk through that sort of thing because they don't want to disturb your vegetables. So making sure, again, that the rows inside of your garden are very clear so that people don't feel like they're going off the path, for example, and also that there are no plants or anything growing into the walkways. Again, that just makes it a little more inviting for people who are not quite accustomed to garden spaces. The third tip that I have for you today is to just buy a few simple and cheap decorations. The reason for that is that, especially if you follow the first two where the gardens look inviting, there's a clear path, that sort of thing, something like just simple pumpkins, the little yard ornament pumpkins, or maybe an orange string of lights, anything along those lines. Just something to bring people's attention to that area. Maybe ask a question, start a conversation. Next thing you know, you're given a garden tour. So now's a great time to start doing this, in fact, because a lot of your stores and things that carry fall and or Halloween are starting to put those decorations on sale. And the reason is they're making room for all of the Christmas stuff. So you can save big money on those really simple ornaments. I would advise, of course, sticking with maybe, pumpkins or corn, scarecrows, perhaps something along those lines, and maybe not, ghost ghouls, that sort of thing. But, it's up to you, whatever you'd like to do. Well, we'll wrap this up here with just a little bit of advice when it comes to this sort of thing. I have found in the past that it's best to go simple and not go extravagant. The more simple and inviting and open that your garden spaces are, the more people are going to feel comfortable asking you about them. They're not going to be overwhelmed if they don't know a lot about gardening and that sort of thing. The other thing, and this sounds really, really simple, but when I was putting this together, I thought maybe I would mention it here at the end, but just make sure that you don't go overboard in the amount of time that you spend in your garden itself. Here at the homestead, we have my wife and I, and then we have a couple family members that are also really familiar with our gardens. So whenever the time comes and, we're having Thanksgiving and that sort of thing, I don't want to spend all of my time in the gardens to a point where I'm alienating other guests or other family members. And I definitely do not want anybody who is immobile or just simply doesn't feel like going outside that day. I don't want them to feel ostracized or not part of the group. So just making sure that you split your time equally, especially if you're the host. Just make sure that overall that you're spreading your attention and that you're not alienating any of your guests. And eventually what will end up happening is the people that were disinterested in your garden or maybe didn't feel like it that day, after they talk to their other family members about the experience, more than likely in the future, you're going to have a chance to walk them through the gardens as well. As always, I appreciate everyone who stuck it out here till the end. Until next time, I hope you all take care of yourselves. Peace.